Nature, how big this world is. This is the world around us, except for human-made phenomena. As human, we are only one animal species that consciously, powerfully manipulates the environment. We think of ourselves as exalted, as special. From the beginning of the time, nature has been part of our lives. Our food, clothes, and houses was provided by nature itself. Day by day, year by year, humanity had been developing all parts of their lives and requirements growing up. We started mining and wasting non-refundable energy resources of the world in enormous scope without any doubt that we are doing wrong. At the time when people started building factories, it seems that no one asked themselves, what will be with nature in a few decades? Terrible wars all over the world only damage the environment. Atomic bombs, space race led it to an environmental catastrophe, which is happening nowadays. Nature conservation, saving the nature, preventing it from collapse. Now look at the numbers, what we have done for the past years. Probably 15% of the non-refundable resources was wasted. We have lost biggest parts of our green shield like Amazon tropical forest. According to the research, in 2030, half of the Amazon tropical forest will disappear. As we know, trees produces oxygen, and without trees we will have filthy air. 40% of ice shield of the planet melted and has become 40% thinner than it was 40 years ago. Ice shield is stabilizing weather around the world. Worldwide changing of the poles is real. From 2000 years, the acidity of the world ocean increased 10 times. It is all because of the oil that gets into the ocean and rubbish which was thrown. 19% of the reef disappeared and also species dead. 40 million of rubbish around the world every year thrown into the ocean. Fishes and other species in ocean dying and disappears. A quarter of all species is going to disappear nowadays. Emission of the car contains 280 hazardous substances. In Europe, 225,000 of people suffers and dies of carbon dioxide emission per year. For the past 50 years, average temperature in the Earth has risen for 0.8 by Celsius. In 2003 in France, 12,000 of people was killed by anomaly heat wave. Since 1920s, amount of megacities has risen from 25 to 300. Now we know what had been done by humanity for past years. Nowadays, world faces three main problems: urbanization, global warming, and carbon footprint.
The most important issue facing the global today, the whole question of urbanization. We are urbanizing at the rate of the 1.5 million a week. It has created a tsunami problems which are in the form of a global warming environment problems, effect on financial market, pollution, diseases. All of them are huge problems and they are all generated by urbanization. If we start to think we can solve the problem by only focusing on financial market or global warming, each one of them is complex and we need to think in systems that are interrelated and we need to think in a systemical way, which means we need to recognize that in some extraordinary way that health in some funny ways is somehow related to the financial market in some curious way, tied linked to the roads that we have in our cities. All of these things are interconnected and we need to start to think of a global kind of
and every city feels big. Yet when you look at the data is protectable, this potential size of city, it can be said that amazingly follows the rules of the simple mathematical equations that can be tell the size of city in USA and they will answer how many people should the country have, how many police or how many crimes had been committed, and this will be within 85 of curious no matter what the same rules is even more amazing because the same rules is used across the global. If we start thinking more systemically by using this kind of And maybe formulating this kind of negative scientific framework, we can help mitigate against all these costs that are used by urbanization. We need to think not just in an economical but also something based on science and mathematics.
Human activities release a wide range of emissions into the environment, including carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, ozone, sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, and many other pollutants. According to the motor vehicle census, for 1,000 people in Malaysia, we have 641 cars. In cities, materials like concrete, asphalt, bricks absorb and reflect energy differently than vegetation and soil. Cities remain warm in the night when the countryside has already cooled, what leads to a global warming. Taking in consideration all facts, there is one obvious solution, is to deconcentrate megacities. And for governments, is to divert the budget in the same amount to all cities.
Global warming is a phenomenon of the increase in global temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. The main fact that causes the global warming is the greenhouse effect, which is the absorption by atmospheric gases of the sun's heat and radiation. These gases are mainly CO2 and O3, but that's the boring part. Let's remember our childhood. 10 years ago, the summers were not very hot. Now the temperature increases abruptly. Am I wrong? This is a little part of the consequence of this problem. Let's check other examples but on a large scale. We shouldn't blame to the big industries. The responsibility is ours. Around the world, there are many people polluting with toxic substances like this. If we could reduce greenhouse effect by 15%, the world would continue heating for another 100 years. That's because we need to act, and act now. The choice is yours.
Hello, can I ask you some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the global warming?
what I think about global warming. Those people like cutting trees and doing like those factories
Yeah.
is going more and more because the economic, they are doing the business more and more.
Yeah.
So the carbon dioxide, like they're doing like a lot.
Yeah.
So I think this one is cost, and they're cutting tree a lot. This is the main point.
Okay.
About this question, I think sure, it's the people will die for, of course, the global warming. The people will pay the cost for their own like industrial and science development. But I think it should happen in few time, maybe 2 or 3 thousand years after.
How to solve it? Solve the global warming?
I guess the governments nowadays, all around the world, the government is trying to solve it by funding a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
But then, as an individual, if you don't really have a lot of power like the government,
Yeah.
I guess all you can do is, like the simple stuff, recycle. Maybe if you're vegan, you're doing it right, but
Yeah.
not eating meat.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff like use less electricity, all that simple stuff that we take for granted.
Yeah.
I think we should not take for granted. And yeah,
Okay. Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
If this happens, the natural world will suffer a mass extinction event which will wipe out the majority of the plants and animals with which we currently share the planet. Although there will be a lot more rats, flies, cockroaches, and mosquitoes, and the world's ecosystems going to melt down. The first human impacts will come in the form of steeply declining access to fresh water. As rainfall patterns change, glacier-fed rivers dry up and rising sea levels contaminate reservoirs. As crops fail, forests burn, deserts spread, and coastal regions flood permanently. People will start to pack up their things in their buildings and move on in search of a better life elsewhere. But where?
Je regarde la salle, je vois que la réaction est positive, je n'entends pas d'objection. L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
Hi, I'm Cynthia.